All right, everybody, welcome on in as we talk about what is becoming a new era with a new attitude. Right here, we're going to be previewing the defensive line and should be a barn burner. Let's get right into it with the big man himself, the new addition, Mr. Jared Verse. Now, as we go through these defensive ends, I wanted to start with Verse because he is obviously the new face of the defensive line and potentially the new face of the defense. So let's talk about him a little bit. Jared Verse was talked about as undoubtedly the team captain with the Rams. Nobody doubt that. He was a vocal leader, somebody who always spoke up, who always made sure everybody's in place. An incredibly intelligent football player. He was a strong run defender. And as I've said on previous videos, more specifically, the video I made about the Cleveland Browns trade of Myles Garrett for Verse was that Verse is, over the last 2 years, been number 3 in the NFL in pressures. 1 being Myles Garrett and 2 being, I think, Hines Allen from Jacksonville. So Verse is an intense player. And from what early reports have said, because he got to minicamp a day after the trade, he's already incorporating very well, and he is already showing himself to be an incredibly adept leader, outspoken, the exact opposite of Myles Garrett, which was one of the reasons the Browns refused any trade of Garrett to the Rams without Verse involved. Because, and what it says about Verse, the Rams were trying to get that deal done since before the draft. And the Browns would not make a trade unless Verse was involved, which the Rams did not want to happen. That says a lot about Verse. It says a lot about how he is as a teammate. It says a lot about what he does on the field. It says a lot about the leader that he is and how he sets the tone for defenses. Okay, he didn't have the sack numbers. I think 5.5 in his first year, 7.5 his second year last year. But he's a 2-time Pro Bowler. And the Browns now have the last 2 Rookie of the Years on their roster. So what this does is set up a far more intense defense than you're used to seeing. Not as skilled, because nobody's as skilled as Myles Garrett. That's just the way it is. There may not be a more skilled player on the defensive line in NFL history. But it sets up a more intense defensive line. And Verse is the engine behind that. Now, you want to add a little bit of fuel to it? Alex Wright, after he was interviewed after the Myles Garrett trade, I believe it was Alex Wright, he was talking about stepping up. He was talking about taking more of a leadership role on that defensive line. He was a guy that was really close to Myles, and he really talked about stepping in to a leadership role that was left behind. And you already have Jared Verse that is miles away, no pun intended, one of the better leaders in only his second year on the defensive line in the NFL. And Wright's only problem, I think, last year during the season preview, Adam the Bull said he was going to have 11.5 sacks. I think it was 11.5 was the number. And injuries, obviously, for the second straight year, kind of pulled that back. Still had a really good year. But that's been the problem with Alex Wright, is his injury history. But he did get a 3-year extension the middle of last year. He will be here. He is a young guy, and he has shown a lot of potential. He just needs to stay healthy. And if he stays healthy and he teams with Verse, they can make one heck of a 1-2 punch. And one thing that in interviews, it hasn't been said outright, but it's been kind of pointed at a little bit, that, well, we have Myles Garrett. So we're still working hard, we're still doing our job, but we really don't have to go the extra mile because Garrett's there. Garrett will clean it up. Garrett will get the sack. All we have to do is get back there. And now they're kind of, the entire line, from everything I've heard, is like, well, we don't have Myles Garrett now. And this new guy, Verse, he's getting on our asses if we don't give it our all. So, we're now going to have to get up. And if Alex Wright's serious about taking that next step and getting into that next leadership and filling that gap with leadership along with Verse, then those two can make an excellent tandem, because they're both good against the run. They're both good pass rushers, and Wright can also slide down in to that defensive tackle role in pass rush situations. And that brings in the next guy I want to talk about, and that's Isaiah McGuire. McGuire is a very strong man, in shape, punishing young man. And he has been a solid player. He's got a nice motor. And he has been quietly improving over the last couple years. So he's one of those guys that is a rotational piece. He can play right defensive end, left defensive end, but he mainly comes in on pass rush. And he's one of those guys, he's made slow progress. I expected him to make faster progress. But he's still one of the guys I like. He's still one of those guys I'm really high on. But he's got to take the next step. Like I said before, there's no longer that safety net in Myles Garrett. Now they have Jared Verse, and he's net with the Rams. So he's going to be looking for guys to step up. And he's not going to be silent about it like Myles was. He's a vocal guy. He's a leader. He's going to make sure everybody steps up and puts it in there. And I think Isaiah McGuire needs to do that. He needs to take the next step. Because if he can come in and give Alex Wright a blow, give Verse a blow, give these guys a second to catch their breath. Now you've got a 3-man rotation at defensive end that teams have to account for. It's not just going to be one guy. It's got to be all 3. Now, they all don't have to play at the same level, but they got to complement each other. And I think this year, I think it is a much younger group, a much hungrier group, even though Wright and McGuire have been there over the last 2 years. But at the same time, I think the addition of Verse changes that dynamic and makes these guys younger and hungrier. Maybe not age-wise, but the feeling of being re-energized. And I think McGuire's got to feed on that. And I think he very well could. And I hope he does and continues his progression this year. Sam Kamara, he's an interesting one. He's been on the active roster, got sacks, been thrown to the practice squad, thrown back to the active roster, got a sack or 2, thrown back on the practice squad. We don't know what this guy's doing. He's on the Browns depth chart as a defensive tackle, even though he's a defensive end. So I guess that's good versatility. So I'm not sure what he's doing, but he is a strong pass rusher. And he's putting on muscle. So with Kamara, I really like him as a situational pass rusher. He's a good depth piece. If he steps up a little bit along with McGuire, that just makes the team better. That just makes this defensive end group that much better because they're still going to use the wide 9. Coach Rudy still uses the wide 9. Coach Rudenberg, the new defensive coordinator. So the defensive front's not going to change. So the roles of Wright, McGuire, and Kamara aren't going to change much. So the base defense is still the same. So don't, overthink that part of it. And I think Kamara fits well into that wide 9 system. Now, that being said, I really like the defensive end group. I'm not saying they're all world beaters. Most of them are still progressing within their careers. But I think now that they have Verse, if they all take that next step and Verse continues to improve, because he is a young star, then the Browns are going to be in good shape on the defensive line, at defensive end anyway. Defensive tackle, it's all promise. Mason Graham, he was a number 5 overall pick last year. He showed promise. He didn't get many sacks, but I saw him in the backfield a few times. He got a few key stops behind the line of scrimmage in a couple of those wins. He's able to get back there. But one thing we saw was functional strength. We saw it during camp last year. Graham still has his baby fat. And then it turns out he was playing with either a cracked or broken rib toward the end of last year, which slowed down his progress. And quite frankly, I give him a hell of a lot of credit because I played with, pulled groins, bruised ribs, so on and so forth. That hurts. If he had a fractured rib, it's one tough dude right there. One tough dude. I never played with a fractured rib. I am thankful I never played with a fractured rib because that sounds awful. But we need to see him put on some man weight. Got to get rid of some of that baby fat. Put on some man weight. 'Cause you can't go in there playing, even if it's a wide nine, you can't go in there defense tackle playing at 290, 295 pounds. So I want to see him. I'm hoping that he gets up to 300 to 305. He doesn't need to be where his running mate Malik Collins is at 310, but he does need to be up there a little bit more than he is now. And hopefully a full season of professional meals and weight room has done him good, because I think he can be a great player. Whether he can live up to the number 5 pick, I don't know. Because if you're number 5 and you're a defensive tackle, you better be a Pro Bowler for the next 6 to 8 years if you're going to live up to that spot. But I have hope. And speaking of which, might as well get to Malik Collins. Malik Collins, Mason Graham said Malik Collins was the guy that helped him as much, if not more than anybody last year, because just asking questions, doing different things. How do you do this? Why? So on and so forth. And Collins helped him a great deal before the injury. But Malik Collins was having a career resurgence last year. 31 years old. He's the elder statesman of the defensive line. So he's the one everybody's going to come to. Mason Graham's already done that. We're going to see if the others do it. I hope they do. Because if Collins comes out, plays the run and pass like he did last year, and Graham can step up, even if it's just for 1 year, we might have something. Because we don't know the situation with Mike Hall. Mike Hall was somebody I loved coming out. It's well documented on Draft Utopia. You can just go look it up. Problem with Mike Hall is the same problem you have with Alex Wright. Injuries. The difference is Mike Hall was all explosion. That's his entire game. I'm faster than you. I explode off the ball faster than you. I get in the backfield and you can't stop me. And when the knees start to go, something Garrett Bush talked about on the barbershop, when the knees start to go and your entire game's explosion, it's pretty much the end of your career. Because if you can't explode and that's your entire game, you're done. I think Mike Hall can rebound, but he's got to do it this year. Because if he shows he can't explode anymore, he's done. So he has to be able to prove that he can still explode and still get in the backfield. But because of the knee injuries, he's not been able to do that so far in his career. And if he can't do it this year, you may be just looking at, late, hitting free agency. Say within 2 to 3 years, he'd be hanging up his cleats. Because if you can't explode off the line and your entire game's explosion, you're done. And finally, one of my favorites, a guy I completely butchered in an earlier video, Aiden Huntington. I accidentally called him Hutchinson several times in an earlier video, and I profusely apologize for that one. Aiden Huntington, the Browns defensive tackle slash fullback slash defensive end slash tight end slash special teams contributor slash all around I can do anything and please stop me. But you can't. He is a number 3 defensive end, number 4 defensive tackle, goal line tight end, H-back slash fullback, special teams, kickoff ace, gets down there, he works the middle of the field, 200, I think he's 270 pounds, maybe 280 pounds now. Big, athletic, imposing. His first year, he didn't play defensive line that much. He was mainly special teams and fullback. Last year, I saw him play defensive tackle on a couple plays. I saw him play defensive end. He was pretty good. Nothing to write home about. He played fullback that year, played tight end. I saw him play H-back. He was all over the darn place. He is just one of those guys you say, we need you to play there. He plays there, and he's good at it. He's not great at anything, but he's kind of good at everything. So that is a major point of emphasis. But the question that I've got for anybody listening, anybody watching, whatever, is who's next? Because right now, can Alex Wright take the next step? Can Graham take the next step? Can Hall Jr. prove that he's past his knee injuries? And can he rebound? The situation becomes, okay, we know who we have. Can Isaiah McGuire take the next step? Because we know Alex Wright is ready, at least from watching and listening to him, he's ready to step up into that leadership role that Myles Garrett left. Jared Verse has already stepped into being the leader on the team, bringing that new attitude, that new face to the Browns defense. But can Isaiah McGuire take that next step? Can Mason Graham take that next step? Can Mike Hall prove that he's able to get through the injuries? Can Aiden Hutchinson take the next step, going from special teams and gimmick guy to special teams, gimmick guy, and depth piece to I'm an actual rotational piece and I'm not going to do the gimmicks as much? And that is the gist of what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a lot of youth. We're dealing with a lot of promise. But who's going to be the one to step up? Are multiple people going to step up? That's the question we have to ask going into training camp. And if we have a clear answer after training camp, then we'll know. But you guys can make your own decisions on that one. That being said, we've come to the end of our rope talking about the news from the Browns team. So, do us all a favor. Hit that ding-a-ling down low. And remember, this shot's on us.